Hello, I'm Nathan Leahy and welcome to Next Week in Gaming. The first title coming out next week is on Steam's Early Access, and that's coming out on Monday the 22nd of February. This is by Badfly Interactive and it's called Dead Effect 2. It is coming out in Early Access, so it's not 100% complete, but it is quite well polished at the moment. It's actually looking really quite good at the moment. So they're going to release the game in a couple of months, but they haven't given like a solid, we're releasing on this X date, because they've had some troubles with release dates in the past. So, they're being cautiously optimistic and saying that it'll only be in Early Access for a little bit. But, as I said, so far it's looking pretty damn good. It's a game that's sort of like a weird cross between System Shock and Singularity, quite a story-led but generic but entertaining shooter, and it looks pretty spick and span. If you look at the gameplay trailers, it looks pretty great, and there's tons of weapons, there's tons of upgrades and gear and stuff like that. Along with the single mode campaign, there's also some multiplayer for deathmatch and a little bit of co-op going on, and just overall it looks like it's been a really well developed title in Early Access. And I think the main idea is just to push it so that they can get exactly what the players want out of it. I'm just hoping that it's going to be like a proper solid good shooter like Singularity, which wasn't necessarily critically acclaimed, but it was just a generically fun game, and there aren't enough fun shooters out there, so I'll definitely be looking at this one very closely when it comes out. Probably won't be doing a review on it, but I definitely think I'm going to pick that one up. Our next release is a rather bizarre turn of events, and it's by Square Enix Montreal, and it's coming out on Tuesday the 23rd of February, and this is Hitman Go. This was originally a mobile title back in 2014, I think, and it actually got really good reviews both from critics and from users, and it's a really bizarre turn-based version of Hitman. Now, the core concepts are all the same. The whole point is to sneak, but it's in sort of like a grid-like pattern, not quite Legends of Grimlock, but kind of like that, where when you move, enemies also take moves. So it's turn-based strategy, stealth, assassination. It's like Hitman Absolution with almost those kinds of graphics. It's quite a funky system. So if you play Besiege, it's quite similar to that sort of grey around area, but with the main stuff happening in the middle. And it just looks quite good. And it's finally coming to PC, so we might see some shinier graphics. And it has all of the legendary stuff like the silver ballers. You can collect disguises and you can sneak around. And it's just got some of the core elements from the new Absolution game, but it seems like with this new sort of toss-up of way that they're doing things in this real-time strategy shell, it's actually done quite well. So this one should probably do pretty well on PC and get people quite psyched up for the next Hitman game as and when it comes out in the next 3 weeks, I believe, which we will be having a review for. Next up next week on the 26th of February on the Friday is a game by Whale Rock Games, and this is We Are the Dwarfs. This is quite an interesting and fresh new title. It's quite an original piece of IP, to be honest, and it's about a couple of dwarven astronauts, so there's a nice mix between sci-fi and the sort of dwarven fantasy setting there. And it's it's like a story-led action-adventure game where you can sort of switch between these three dwarves ad hoc, and they've got different roles. So you've got a tanky one, a damaging one, and sort of like a stealthy rogue, also ranger one. Graphics look pretty good. It's sort of it's almost like Chaos Reborn style graphics, but less sort of colourful and more grimdark, very much like Hordes of the Underdark in Neverwinter Nights. But it looks really quite well done at the moment. I sadly didn't have time to stick it in the schedule for a review, even though I would have quite liked to, because it seems quite interesting. And it just seems like a solid game. Each dwarf has like their own little passive skill tree and their own unique little abilities, so you sort of get to level things up in Shadow's Heretic Kingdom style, if you guys ever managed to play around with that. So it looks like it's going to be a generally interesting game, and I feel like it's either going to do really well and probably get quite a decent following, or it's probably not going to do so great. But I am quite hoping that this new original piece of IP is at least going to inspire people to play something a little bit different, and it just feels like a nice new thing, and hopefully it turns out well. I'm probably being cautiously optimistic about this one. Perhaps one of the most interesting releases for next week is by NGB Studios, and this is also releasing in Early Access on the 25th of February on the Friday, and this is Master of Orion, not 2, not 3, let's just pretend 3 didn't exist because that was awful, but just a title called Master of Orion without any sequence afterwards, and it's one of those games that seems to be quite a cult classic. I lost literally weeks of my life to Master of Orion and Master of Orion 2 just playing them on DOSBox, because they were just absolutely solid 4X strategy games. They were really deep, quite difficult. Skirmishes would last forever, but it had just this immense amount of satisfaction. And so this developer has quite a big feat on their hands. Basically, they need to recreate Master of Orion 2, but with the shinier graphics and, you know, perhaps a slightly more intuitive interface, and make it a little bit easier for new players to get into it. Because it was quite an old school title, which not necessarily means that it was too hard. It's just that, you know, things have changed since then, and so, you know, the level of entrance has to be a little bit easier. I'll put it that way. It needs to be made a little bit more casual if they're going to, you know, sell to the masses. But I'm just praying that this is going to be just a much better graphically revised version of Master of Orion 2, and I'm just praying that Master of Orion 3 doesn't happen again. So it is going into early access, so they will be getting feedback from the community when it comes to you know, developing the game to the community's taste, because this is very much a title that is going to have to live up to that cult following of the original titles in order to live up to its name. So I feel like the developers really need to listen to the players on this one. But if they do, it's going to be amazing. I mean, if they get it right, this is just going to be awesome. And I'm going to lose more of my lifetime to it. I'll probably just have to quit my job. So our review for next Thursday, the 25th of February, is Superhot, which is a game that was sort of initially developed in a 7-day game jam, the FPS game jam, I think. And I did a little mini review on the prototype, and it was just awesome. In a world where every game feels the same, there are still just these developers out there that somehow manage to make something extremely unique and awesome at the same time. So in this game, in case you guys somehow never managed to see it online in any news outlet ever, this is a game where time only moves when you do, or at least it moves so incredibly slowly, it may as well just be stopped. And it only carries on when you move, and you're basically dodging bullets and shooting at enemies and throwing guns at their heads. And in this new version, which the prototype didn't have, you have melee weapons and loads of different weapons, and shotguns, and you've got to dodge all these spreads of bullets. And it just looks like they've taken the core concept of easy but sort of high skill level fun and just added more content to it. So I am fully expecting this to be an absolutely awesome game and get wonderful reviews all around, just because there is nothing this game could possibly do to ruin itself since the prototype, unless something very bad happens. So I'm going in with high expectations and expecting to come out with, you know, even higher praise for the game. So we're just going to have to sit and wait and hope that by next Thursday I am not pulling my hair out at thinking what went wrong. But, you know, it's got to be an awesome game, and hopefully you guys are equally as stoked about it coming out as I am. So that's it from us on Next Power Up. Join us next week on Thursday for our weekly review, and of course next week on Saturday for our next Week in Gaming episode. Let us know what you've been playing in the comment section below. For me, it's not been a great deal of stuff. As you can see, I've moved around a little bit and got a nice plain background going on, and my Naruto katana sat there with a couple of my brother's games, which is, you know, everything looks a little bit more professional and a little bit better than my previous room, I guess. But, you know, it's been so busy moving my stuff around that I haven't really had a whole lot of time to play games. But I did manage to play some Magic the Gathering at the Friday Night Magic tournament, which was Two-Headed Giant, and we did pretty damn well with a full-on Eldrazi deck, which was summoning Splinter Twins and Kozileks and all this nonsense. And I was just playing a really cancerous blue-red deck, which was designed to just control the enemy, and it worked very well. I managed to get 5 or 6 counters in a row off, and yeah, our opponents were not very happy about that one. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week on Thursday for Superhot. Don't miss it.